Hi, welcome to the Please Bear With Us podcast, where we talk about family, friends, faith, and anything in between. I was playing a game called Splitgate, and there was a map called Oasis, and so I would always sing that song.
Really?
Yes.
What, Wonderwall?
Good gracious.
Oh,
Oh,
meant
Map
old
is
Oasis.
Oasis.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Flirtatious too, right? Only when
Yeah.
you go to Starbucks. We gonna
Only-
start there again?
No, I think we
Did-
should move past.
Did you go to Starbucks this week?
No, I haven't gone to Starbucks.
So, are you going to go and order a tall blonde and see what happens?
I don't know. I don't
No.
know if I'm going to or not.
So I'm gonna. I think that needs to be on the list this week, like the challenge, and you're gonna do it. And I gotta leave you else with something. You know, we're gonna start with a joke tonight. You ready for a joke?
Okay.
So, how much does it cost a pirate to get his ears pierced?
I have no idea.
A buccaneer.
a buccaneer.
Oh, I like that one. I
Tell you
think
have
that's-
kids.
Yeah. Bad dad jokes.
Yep. I spent my morning from 4 a.m. on. I went to the local ER. So
Really?
yes, I was
Wait.
having chest pains.
Okay. Well, first off, you're okay. You're back here.
Yes.
Secondly, did you look at a picture of me or Scott, and did that cause chest pain? And if so,
not
why
the
were you?
same kind?
Okay, so why were you looking at pictures of us at 4 a.m. is what else I want to know. So
At least
no,
you know you have something in there now.
right.
It's,
So
it's my get well soon box. It's like if I'm ever feeling down, I just pull out the pictures of my friends. And so,
okay.
yeah.
Okay.
Heart gets racing. And
So first off, what happened? What was going on? So you woke up at 4 a.m. having chest pain.
Yeah, and I was actually struggling to fall asleep, and my hands were like feeling swollen, and so I was like, this doesn't feel normal, and then with my chest was tense, I guess is the way to say it, and I probably put irrational fear with it as well, and just kind of like there was pain in different places in my body,
Mhm.
like that I was like, there shouldn't be pain here. I'm just laying here doing nothing, like trying to fall asleep, and now there's pain. And so my immediate fear was like blood clot or something like that, which I have no idea if that's accurate or not. I have no idea. I know nothing about medicine at all. And so, but I was having chest pains as well. And so I was like, I called my sister and was like, I think I'm going to go in. And when I got there, I was like, do I need an aspirin or do I need to be admitted? And she's like, I mean, the pain at the time was kind of bad. So I was like, well, she was like, come on in here. So they got
Was this at the ER?
yes.
So your sister works at the ER.
No.
Okay, I
My
was like-
sister I called.
Okay, I
Sorry.
was super confused.
My bad.
So I've got to ask, did you go to a local establishment that is freestanding, not attached to a hospital?
So I went to one that has a network,
Okay.
if that makes sense.
Yeah.
And so
Just on the other side of the interstate?
yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
We're being cryptic here, aren't we? I like
yes,
it.
but we
I like-
have
'cause-
to be.
so-
because-
So in essence, you came to my neck of the woods,
yeah, kinda.
right?
run into each
Okay.
other again at the.
Yeah.
Well, so
Well,
I'm at a sister facility, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And so I just went to the closest one and was like gripping my heart and said, "Joey."
So here's the thing. Did you throw my name out there? Because if you did, I'm
No.
going to hear about it.
No.
I mean, I love you,
didn't.
and I'll let you do it.
I
but
didn't do it
okay.
because I was genuinely like scared.
Yeah.
And so
absolutely.
it was my first going to a hospital without being manic.
Mm-hmm.
And so like that played into it as well. Cause I'm like having chest pains, but I'm not manic. Like it was it was a much different experience because for those who don't know, if you haven't listened to the first podcast yet, I'm bipolar. And so mania, if you go into a hospital while you're manic, you usually don't leave the hospital. They'll transport you to somewhere, pink slip is what it's called, or something like that, where you get involuntarily admitted into a stronger facility to take care of you. And so I was a little nervous at the time from that too. So like I had multiple factors going on that kind of played into me getting worked up, and I have anxiety.
Sure.
Which could be the chest pains in itself is anxiety.
Sure. Well, when you first said I couldn't sleep, my immediate thought was anxiety. And we see that a lot. Our bodies do strange things to us. As we increase the anxiety, we increase, we'll just say the chest pain, but the symptoms, right?
Mm-hmm.
So how did the workup go?
EKG and a chest x-ray.
So you have a heart.
I do.
Okay, confirmed.
Like the Grinch, where it's like, shh.
Yeah.
But we confirmed there's something there, right?
Yes.
You've got a ticker and it's ticking?
Yep.
Okay. How was your prostate?
It was not checked, thankfully.
Do that tonight.
Oh gosh.
It's been a long day,
friendly.
right, Tyler? So did we do cardiac labs? Was there a cardiac workup? Did they draw blood?
Yes.
Okay. Everything came back good?
Yes, everything did come back good. And so I was thankful for that. Like I didn't want something to be wrong with me, even though you go there because you think something's wrong with you. Like I'm glad to have a clean bill of health, I guess is the way to say it. Even though like I don't want to just waste, I don't know how many times I get to go through insurance and stuff like that for
$3,000 a pop.
Yeah, I mean I have good insurance.
Chump change, right? Just chump change.
Yeah, but I felt like my parents said I did the right thing by going.
Yeah,
and I was just like okay, because I wasn't settled until the doctor was like, doctor came in and he's like, this is why we check things. And he's like, so far everything's checked, has come back good. I was put to ease.
Sure.
Put at ease.
So, Tyler, were they able to give you a diagnosis or just say you were okay? Meaning you weren't in imminent danger. And I'm going somewhere with this, so.
Okay. So, yeah. I mean, it makes sense that you're going somewhere with it because it's your job. Like, more. They discharged me with acute chest pain, so I'm acute, just a little.
And he's going to go to Starbucks and order a tall blonde as well.
Yeah.
So a cute dude going to Starbucks to order a tall blonde. It's the right recipe. It's success, right?
Yeah.
I don't know how many like-minded baristas you would find at Starbucks.
I have no idea. I may need to choose another coffee shop, but
start small. The local coffee shop, we could always go there first. We could set a mock one up in the kitchen. Scott could play barista.
Yeah. And run the game and see how it goes.
We could model this out. The bearded barista.
I don't know if that's what you want to shoot for.
So acute chest pain.
No, it's not.
So the question I'm sure you probably have is, but what's wrong with me, or but why?
Yeah, that's where I didn't have, like, I still am having the pain in my chest. Like, it didn't just magically disappear. It subsided for a time, but it has come back. The swelling in my hands have gone away, which has been good. Because, like, I really felt like basically there was blood flow. Like, I was out working on my car and like my arm was hurting for no reason. So like I had legitimate like concerns about like, well, maybe I'm like heart attack or something like that. Like, and that's what they were there for. And so they checked, they said everything's good. I don't know why, but I'm kind of just trusting the system and the process right now. I'm a big truster though too. I have to be.
Sure.
Sounds like almost like a panic attack.
It could have been.
Well, one symptom leads to the next, which leads to the next when it comes to anxiety, stress, whatever. I will tell you too, chest pain's caused by all sorts of things, right? So of course we have in the healthcare world, we would talk about some type of insult or infarct in the heart, which is a conduction problem, a pump problem, right? The traditional, I'm having a heart attack problem. But then there's other problems. There's injury, there's stress and anxiety. You think about seasonal allergies, heck, even the idea of histamines rising, and we get inflammation in random places, hands tingling, right? Allergic reactions, hands can tingle, and that's, histamines pump up, right? Chest wall has cartilage that gets inflamed. I'm not a physician, but just I think knowing that it can be so many different things. But I think the key there is you have a negative workup. Everything looked good, right? So a lot of times we see people in that setting and they're angry because we can't tell them what's wrong. It's like they want something to be wrong, but really they just want answers. And the old adage is, I can tell you you're safe today. I can tell you everything that's not wrong, but I don't have all the answers today. Right. And then kind of the adage is next steps are, or even more so, that important for that reason.
I like the no news is good news philosophy. It's definitely I've been put through the ringer in terms of learning to trust the hard way for my doctors and stuff like that, because when I was manic, I didn't trust nothing, and you doctors were all crazies and stuff like
remember,
that.
I'm a nurse, not a doctor.
I know. but still, it like I went through that where, and so now it's like I trust way more easy because I'm not a bucking bronco anymore. And so that plays into it.
That's a great way to put it, bucking broncos. So Scott, like the first time, and I'm going to share this if this is okay.
Yeah,
but I met
fine.
Tyler. He was a bucking bronco, and there is absolutely no trust. I can put my arm around you and tell you everything that I think you need to hear, and you're going to hear nothing that I say and see everything that I don't see and hear everything that I don't hear in that moment. And it could be that it is hallucinations. It could just be your mind playing a trick on you. It's all sorts of wild things, and you can't even understand because it's not rational in the moment. But the fear and the anxiety of someone in an acute state of mental crises is absolutely, it's horrifically scary and sad. And I don't think there's any other way to say it. I can't even imagine how it feels to be in that state, Tyler. And the fact that you've not only been through that, but rationally you can look back now. I think that that's a huge testament to where you've come. And we've talked about this a little bit before. But your ability, I think the healing is exponential for you. And I think a lot of it, obviously there's healing, there's medication, but your faith has I think carried you through a lot of this. So
it has.
It's really cool. Just to even hear you talk about this visit and the fact that you were rationally able to make that decision and not be afraid to go. I think that we think of flashback moments, PTSD type of moments, right? You don't probably have a lot of great memories.
The last time I was in a hospital, like, it was not great memories, and so I was nervous, and I was nervous then. Mm-hmm. Like I was nervous for myself because I felt like I had a problem that was wrong with me that I needed attention for. But I also was nervous because I didn't want the doctors to think I was seeking attention or them to think that they needed to make a call, that I was mentally ill
Sure.
again.
Sure.
And so that was very eye-opening, just like my insecurities in certain areas that I had, and it just kind of all overwhelmed at once.
Sure.
And but I mean, I'm glad it happened. Like, I'm able to be here tonight and everything be okay. I was able to do everything I needed to do today as well, which thankfully included therapy today. That was a good, I don't know, like, it was, the experience kind of sucked. And I wouldn't recommend going to the hospital, fear of chest pains and stuff.
Well, it's funny you
Well,
say that because I'm the complete opposite. The only time I'm going to the hospital is if I get taken there in an ambulance, because unless a bone's sticking out, I'm not paying $500 copay just to
See, that ride there though is part of your
Yeah, but I mean, if like, because I get strep every year, and you know, if when I had COVID and stuff, I never went to the hospital. I never went to even get a test, but I just knew because my taste and smell was gone. But I haven't been to the hospital other than when Agnes was born. I haven't been 20 years maybe for myself. That was when I was maybe 16 or 17 with alcohol poisoning.
Wow. Was Everclear involved?
No, lots of beer, and I think it was, I can't remember what I had taken, if it was Percocet or Adderall. It was some prescription pills I was not prescribed to.
Well, and I asked that because I had and not to be funny, but in that moment, I've had young kids come in and I've had them super paranoid from alcohol poisoning. I've had very wild stories I could share with you guys about that. And one day we'll talk about some wild stories. Obviously protecting patient rights and upholding all privacy laws. But you know, I get you. You know, I'm the same way. I will only go if I maybe drop a tree on my head, and maybe I did, maybe I didn't. We won't talk about that. There's scars to prove how idiocracy does work itself out for you. So Tyler, I'm glad you're okay. I'm going to give one plug here for this establishment. Please make sure you complete the survey that you are sent. Your feedback is vitally important. And on that note, I'm going to go to Scott here, but I think Scott needs another joke. Or do you agree? I think I'm on a roll today.
Okay.
And I don't know why. And I come in, and first off, Scott says that my coffee smells like marijuana, and I am the last person in the world that would ever do such a thing. Truth be told, I asked my wife, and she's like, "Yeah, right." I've never in my life tried it, so I don't know if it's the creamer or what it is, but that or
You've
Scott,
never smoked weed?
Never have done it. No,
Me
just
neither.
I've never had the
Really?
desire. Never had the desire. So
I don't even know where you get it, and I don't want
I
to
wouldn't
know.
know anymore, but I smoked weed every day for probably
know a
5
lot of people
years.
that have.
5
I know a lot
years
of people that
probably.
use it medicinally and that really have good benefits from it, but not my cup of tea. You know. So Scott, what do you call a deer with no eyes?
I have no idea.
No idea. And but here's my other question for you. What do you call what do you call a deer with no eyes and with 4 broken legs? Still no idea.
Man, this
So-
is terrible.
So Scott,
That's like,
go ahead, Tyler.
I mean, it's difficult to fathom the amount of stupid jokes that because at some point they're dad jokes, and then at some point it's like there's a new ranking system, and
Bad or inappropriate or
yeah.
This is not bad, I promise. But this is wrong for your coworkers. So as a nurse, sometimes patients will come in and they've had trouble going to the bathroom, having a bowel movement. Okay, so we've tried different things. Sometimes you literally have to digitally disinfect somebody, and it
Digitally?
sounds digitally. You glove up and you have to help.
Oh, like
remove.
a digit.
Yeah,
Okay,
you have to help
okay.
remove stool out of
Yeah,
out of the rectum.
kind of like an enema. But
kind of, but you know, I was always had this knack of being able to get out of it. And what I would do is I would always use this line, and it worked every time. I'd go over to one of the girls and be like, hey, I've got this sweet old lady over here in room 14, and Doc wants me to digitally disimpact her, and my fingers are just so much bigger. Can you please take care of it for me? Oh yeah, I'll go to 16 and get your IV and everything else. Well, what they really don't know is I just sit them into a room of like a 27-year-old male. So, but you know, those are the things that keep you sane while working in the ER are those stories, and the banter goes back and forth. But you know, you got to keep your sanity somehow, right? So
I would imagine some of the stuff you see, you've got to have some kind of levity in there. Otherwise, you know, it would drive you to drink almost just to
well,
deal with it.
Honestly, and I've got several friends who have. I've got friends who have lost license over those types of things. And I think it's because there's a lot of data and research out there that suggests with first responders, and we kind of clump into that emergency room, that suggests we're not good at coping. We just kind of sweep it behind us until we don't. And when we don't, it's an all or none.
Well, some of the biggest drinkers, I remember when I would drink, they were always cops and firefighters.
Absolutely. And they are tenfold in a worse spot than we are. We get the patients when they're typically more cleaned up.
Well, I know like suicide rates and stuff for cops and firefighters are really high too because of the stuff they have to see, I would imagine.
Yeah, and it's the same thing. They're bad at coping. I've got several friends. My dad was a police officer. You know, I've got several friends who are in law enforcement and fire, and the same thing. So,
well, stuff like with firefighters and policemen, you never, I guess maybe not never, but most of the time when you answer calls, it's never when it's at a good time in somebody's life.
sure.
You know what I mean? It's always the worst time.
Yeah.
And you're the first one they see, and they're the first ones you see. So, especially at being a policeman too, your life is always on the line. You never know what you're gonna get when you show up somewhere. So,
when times have changed, I mean, it's scary. It's always been a dangerous job, but I think just as mindsets change and there's different challenges, you know, our country's facing very dividing times.
I don't know why anybody nowadays, if you were like 16 or 17 years old growing up, you know, be like, I want to be a police officer. What's the draw now? Like the pay's not perfect.
Pay's terrible.
You don't get, you know, recognition for your service. You don't get respect anymore.
Yeah.
And if you do anything, it's worst case scenario.
So, funny story. My dad, I said, was a police officer, and it's always been on my heart. There was a time I literally was probably within 2 or 3 weeks of making a career change into that field. And my wife was supportive, but I can tell you, my wife and her family were praying that door would shut and slam shut. And it did over something really unbelievably bizarre and abnormal. So I truly think that God slammed that door shut, probably to keep me safe. But the why, people do want to make a difference. And that's there's a country song, Luke Bryan sings it, right? It talks about there's still, you know, a lot of good people in this world, and there are. I think that we don't get to see it because we hear all the bad.
Yeah, it's always negative stories.
And I think it's sad and it's unfortunate, you know. You just look at going through an election, we just went through an election, right? You're hearing just the negatives and the division there. You're hearing the blame game. You're hearing all of this about you know, our country's terrible, but in fact, the United States of America is still probably and most definitely the best place to live in this world. So,
well, it's just the amount of political ads, even YouTube, you know, it's annoying, but like none of them are positive. Like no one's like, hey, we're planning on lowering taxes or anything like that. It's always like against the other person rather than what they're going to do. Yeah. It's all just mudslinging the whole time.
What was the one? State of Ohio. We had the race was J.D. Vance versus
Tim Ryan.
The Tim Ryan ones
taxing
Tim Ryan and the football.
Ryan.
I mean, just terribly done. I mean, honestly, and they were all you could do is laugh.
Well, the one is a video of him shooting a pistol or something like that, and his groupings aren't even tight. It's all over the target, but he still said it's not bad for a Democrat. I'm like, it's not good, you know what I mean? But like that's his appeal is like even his signs and stuff. They weren't blue, even though he's a Democrat. They were gray,
Yeah.
or red. Like they weren't. He tried to hide it. It's.
I mean, he from the advertisements that were on YouTube and stuff that I saw, he was more like middle ground.
Yeah, he was a middle of the road guy.
Yeah, and trying to pull people together, but sometimes, and I mean, just politics in general is a hard subject to talk about.
Oh Lord.
But like sometimes the middle ground is not what you need. I feel like there is a time where it is necessary. Like I don't want stalemates where no one's doing anything, or they're just sitting there twiddling their thumbs and
Sure.
no one's actually communicating with the other side. Like we need that kind of middle groundness, but we don't need like
I'm the complete opposite of you.
And
I wish
here's
it was stalemates the whole time. Anytime the
Yeah.
government gets involved, it's always a mess.
yeah, and
So the less they're doing, the better.
Yeah, and I think there's some of that, and I think the other piece of that middle ground is good, especially if and when people are ready to work together. When there is willing collaboration, right, which there's not been for a long, long time, and it doesn't matter where you sit on the fence, right? It just is where I think we're at, and it's sad, but yeah, it's interesting just to see just negativity is everything right now, and I think that when we look at the state of people and how we feel, it affects us immensely, right? It affects our days, our attitudes. Tyler, what you have something? You look like he's thinking hard over there.
Well, no, like I do like middle ground more than I care to admit. I just believe that there's I believe that there is a line where people are using a middle ground, I don't know, to gain.
There's ulterior motives to trying to be in
Yes.
the middle, right? Trying to be, it's an appeasement ground. So the idea of, right, I'm going to act like I'm in the middle to appease or please both sides. Is that kind of what you're getting at?
Yeah, and I mean, what's funny is if there's one thing I can't stand, like there was a popular, very immensely popular, Republican, talk show host for the radio that my dad listened to all the time, and I couldn't stand him because he only talked on his point of view, and he never gave the other side a chance. Like, if he did give the other side a chance, it was to come on, they would make a point, and then he would just tear it down. And
well, sometimes they bring on the wildest people to make a fool of themselves, and you're
yes.
like, see, this is what we're dealing with here.
Yeah. And that's where I do want to see middle ground is. So I guess politics just gets me all confused.
Well, it's good when like the people, they'll call out the loonies on the right and they'll call out the loonies on the left, rather than, with, back in the day with Rush Limbaugh, where it was, here's the good ideas on the right and here's how stupid everyone is on the left. It's never, well, this is, Iraq war, pro-Iraq war, when never should have done it. But because, the Republicans and everything agreed to it, never said anything negative about it.
Sure.
So it was just, I don't know, but that's,
I don't know. That's going to bring up a whole new topic.
I was going to say, I'm going to veer a little off to the left here, but that's what ultimately turned me into a Christian, was debates and stuff between Christian philosophers and atheist philosophers, and just the arguments that the Christians were putting out, and the arguments that the atheists would put out. The Christian always made sense to what the way the world actually worked, rather than, the atheists more or less just gave, we haven't got there yet, just give it time, and then I know it's more or less a Christian book, but like The Case for Christ, where, he started out as an atheist, his wife became a Christian, and he hated the idea of his wife being a Christian. He thought it was going to turn her into some square, more or less, I guess, showing my age, lack of a better word, but, uptight person, and he wanted to disprove it so that he could ruin it for her and bring her back. And he interviewed all these scholars and college professors and everything, and ultimately it brought him to faith in Christ because of their arguments and his lack of rebuttals to them. And, reading stuff like that, and, coming from a philosophy background is one of the things I studied in college. It really stuck with me and struck me that, if you wanted to pursue the knowledge and the truth, that it is there if you're willing to look and not, bring your presuppositions to the table while you're sitting there. And, because I could care less either way. I wasn't necessarily an atheist, but I necessarily didn't want to, I didn't want to follow Jesus. Right. I didn't want to change my life at all, but I had nowhere else to go after what was presented to me. So there I was.
Well, Scott, so that I have actually a question on that. So your background, philosophy, I can tell you, making college visits, having to take the one or two philosophy type courses that I took, it seemed like the attack on the Christian faith was stronger than the attack on other opinions. So, like, I'll give you for instance, they would ask questions, and it would be, so why do you believe this, or what do you believe? And somebody could say, well, whole nother argument, but the earth's flat, Okay. Well, I think Christ did this, died for us, and I think God created all of this. Oh, no. There was a lot of rebuttals. So I feel like that is heavy in that realm of education or philosophy, no pun intended. So how did you view that? How did you deal with that? And how do you look back on that now, I should say?
Looking back, it's hard to really think about it because I wasn't a Christian in college. I've only been a Christian for a couple of years, and, I'm 12 years out of college now, but they didn't push anti-religion necessarily in the philosophy classes I took. They just put the ideas and the different big-name philosophers like Nietzsche and all that stuff, and what they thought of religion and God and stuff, and the arguments for a possible God and the arguments against a God, but it was always just abstract ideas. It wasn't proof-related, like, is the Bible reliable?
Oh, okay.
Was Jesus a real person? And now, 95% of New Testament scholars, atheists, Christian, whatever, they all agree that Jesus was a real person.
For sure.
And the Bible was reliable. And there's only three options for Jesus. Either he was a liar, he was a lunatic, or he was the Lord. So that's your three options. You can either call Jesus a liar, you call him a lunatic because he was not just a good teacher. He was not just, a wise man. He considered himself to be the Son of God and to be praised and worshipped. Or he was the Lord, so, follow him and research it and look up to it, and that's what I ended up falling into. But as far as, the philosophy is, it's funny looking back now because I guess I was more middle of the road back then, and I had to take a philosophy class, and it was the philosophy of gender. It's going to go in a different branch here, but all I did was pander. And just, it was so easy to get an A, because they more or less wore their ideology on their sleeve, and all you had to do was pander to them. Even if it's not something I had agreed with or whatever, it was just so easy.
You write the response and just go with it, yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So you bring up a point. So, because a couple points, I think that one thing I will agree on is a lot of it was, I think, innocent questioning or challenging questioning in a innocent manner, meaning making me think. And there were a lot of questions about what is right and wrong, what's moral,
Right.
all that morality, all that stuff. But you talked about the idea of Christ, and essentially, I mean, it's nearly 100% of historians, yes, Jesus Christ lived, walked this earth, right? A high percentage, yes, the Bible's reliable. So you said 3 options. I've always kind of viewed it as 2. And it's either he was who he said he was, or he was a liar, lunatic. I kind of pair those together, and it's very interesting. And the reason I kind of have stated that as 2 historically is the concept of, if we know he lived and we know the Bible is reliable, meaning the miracles he performed happened. I don't even know if lunatic's the right word, right?
Yeah.
Well,
I think that's the big issue is, there's more evidence that Jesus existed than Alexander the Great, but just because there is miracles and stuff in the actual old texts that they find, they don't consider it historical because there's miracles in it. If there was anything from Alexander the Great that, he healed blind men or walked on water and stuff, they wouldn't consider that historical just because of the miracles.
Well, it's irrational, right?
Right.
And I think that's rationality and logic. Like, I get it. You can't even fathom being on that end, that receiving end, or we're seeing that. And even if you see it, you're thinking, okay, they're in this together, right? This is a huge conspiracy. And what I think is interesting when you even think about that concept, that ideology, is if this is a huge conspiracy, these guys, Jesus and the apostles, covered hundreds of miles, right? Like, this wasn't like, oh, we're just hanging out in a small village and doing this. So, like, no social media.
Thousands of years later.
Right. No social media, no cell phones, no means to efficiently communicate and organize the conspiracy, right? So
well, the big thing is the tradition has it, and there's no statement that says otherwise. They all, except for John, were martyred for their faith. They were able to easily recant and save their lives, but they weren't willing to, say that it wasn't true, and they all died for that. So because they know that the true, and they're not willing to die, or they're not willing to save their lives to recant on that.
And John was marooned or something. It's not marooned.
He was a prisoner on.
He was prisoned. Remember,
Patmos.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's an island though. Like he was shipped away to it or something.
It's interesting because the whole philosophy, the idea, the philosophical idea of it's irrational thinking of everything that happened. But when you look at the history and you actually talk through it, there's only one rational reasoning, and that's that he is who he said he was.
Yeah.
It's weird how it flips. You know what I mean? If you actually look at it. And I think it's easy for us to say as believers, and I think that, and we'd all be naive to say we've never questioned, right? We have moments in life where we've questioned, and I think that
it's healthy.
It's healthy and it's honest, and we have to be honest. Right, that's a part of why we're doing this, is we want to be honest and share. This is life, guys. Like, but to me, there's just no other rational reasoning, And I know there's faith in our hearts, but when you even try to step back and look at it through the eyes of, we'll say, science and history and reasoning, 1 + 1 + 1 still equals 3.
Well, that's the big thing with morality too, is, you, like you were saying earlier, you teach them, the big philosophy thing is morality, and the only reason that morality exists is because God exists. Otherwise, it's just your opinion. If one society thinks, like back,
cannibals and stuff.
Yeah, in China, they kill the girls, if they, they're not allowed to have one female per family, and who's to say that's immoral? Or even like this is kind of different, but like during World War II with the Nazis, they weren't breaking any laws of their country. Germany, they were allowed to kill the Jews.
Mm-hmm.
And the only reason they were able to be prosecuted is because there is a law above human law,
Yeah.
And that was why is that immoral? It's because human life has value.
So speaking of that and human life having value, it brings me back to an agenda question I have for Scott, because you thought the Iraq war was pointless. And so for me, I felt like it wasn't pointless because we were attacked. I think that it got washed up in its meaning, like once we were there, like we like it was Operation Iraqi Freedom, I think.
I think the issue was the CIA convinced, the higher ups in government that Saddam Hussein had weapons of mass destruction, which they never found. He could have moved them, but they never found any. And the people who destroyed the Twin Towers were Saudi Arabians. They weren't in Iraq. So the only reason they went to Iraq is because, the CIA convinced them they had weapons of mass destruction, but they never found them. And then got into Afghanistan because of, I guess,
that's where
Osama bin Laden was hit out and all that. But
yeah, that's who claimed, that's who claimed the attack was Osama.
Mm-hmm.
And so
But based on the evidence of 2001, 2002, the Iraq War was justified based on what they were presented. So you didn't really have a choice. But
it's interesting. I think the right question that is okay to ask is, was 9/11 the means to end the reign, right, of Saddam?
Yeah.
There's always a means to the end, and
hindsight's always 20/20.
It's always, and there's so many questions around the idea of even 9/11 itself, and the idea of who killed bin Laden, and we can get wrapped up in a lot of conspiracy. We can get lost in a lot of truth, and then just things get muddier. And I feel like, will we ever have all the answers? No. But I think that at the end of the day, just knowing that all this has happened for a reason, and once again, easy to say, right? But don't carry the burden of what's right, what's wrong in that instance, but carry the faith. I'm going to use that word, the trust that God's got this, and this all happened for a reason, right? And it's all in the plan.
Yeah.
And is it a scapegoat? Sure, maybe. But is it true? I think so.
I think his hand's in everything. So,
yeah.
If, there was always been war.
Sure.
So it's just another war on the list. So, I guess if God didn't want it to happen, he would not allow it to happen. But it's just easy now to look back and question everything. But
and I think, so Tyler and I have a veteran friend that I think would be fun to share this experience with, because his views are very much, it was a wasted war. I don't know if there's another way to say it.
Yeah, we should let him tell it.
Yeah,
though,
we will. But it's I think the idea, though, it's interesting even to hear from him. But the individual impact could be different for everybody. And I think that's where I was kind of going with that, right? So depending on your experience, your belief, the outcome of all that you just went through might change your views. And hindsight is so 20/20.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, I kind of take the ground of a lot of fantastically incredible men and women did a lot of fantastic, incredible, brave, unimaginable things for the sake of freedom. Now, whether there was agreeable reasoning, understandable reasoning, right? Justification, whether that was even there. We've had brothers and sisters that have stood up in those moments, and I don't know. I try to always take different, because I think it's so easy to get lost in, we're going to use the word politics, right? Because the politics of it are the issue. The politics of our country are the issue.
I always think back because, 04, 05 as I was graduating high school. I showed my age there, but thank God that there's not too many pictures of me out there, but I was full on pink mohawk, denim jacket, patches, spikes, studs, all that stuff.
Please tell me there are pictures.
No, one or two somewhere.
There's
a picture I have of somewhere with my mohawk. I was in mohawk I was in the hot tub somewhere, but it's in the box.
It's in the.
But because I was peak anti-United States, burning American flags, all that stuff, and come a long way since then, luckily. But it's just crazy because that was, Iraq War, and I used to wear a shirt. It was like a American flag turned sideways, and there was a person behind there with their hands like through the stripes, like there were prison bars, and the death counts of more or less citizens during wars and stuff like that, and it said who were the real terrorists and all that stuff. It was a mess, but I'm just thankful that I don't have anything from those pictures or anything like that. But I guess that's where my mind, my frame of mind always comes from, is back to that. But yeah, I don't think like that anymore.
It's cool. I mean, it's cool to.
Now I have a button up and
yeah.
khakis on.
His name's Jake from State Farm.
Yeah, exactly. You'd think.
I mean, that's kind of how my story is too, because I have some not so pretty moments in my life, and I mean, if you kind of how you described yours, you're like, thankfully I'm not there anymore, and that's where I'm at too, is like, thankfully I'm not there anymore. I'm sure everybody has their moments, but it means something, and I don't know how much I'm going to reveal yet. I've just had a lot of hardships in the past, and it all kind of came to a head. I hit rock bottom, and then bounced back, thankfully, because of Jesus. And without Jesus and modern medicine and people that were there caring for me when I wasn't so lovely, I wouldn't be here today. I mean, I would still be in an institute, most likely, or worse, I would be dead, because I remember one of so I've had two or three large manic episodes, and the one that Joey met me through was number 2 on the list. And that I wasn't eating when Joey met me. I had a Mustang that I drove until it ran out of gas, and I locked up my credit card, and so I had no money for gas. I had no money for food. I was walking down the the that's when a police officer stopped me, and the police officer called a squad. The squad got me into into an emergency room style situation, and I mean, I went willingly ish. I didn't like put up a fight or anything like that. Um, and I mean, I'd be dead because I just would have starved. Your your brain is
That's crazy to me.
yeah, like I'm thankful it wasn't winter.
You froze to death or
Yeah.
yeah.
I could have. I mean,
Or in the summer, just dehydrate
Yeah.
yourself and everything.
yeah. I mean, that's
Jeez.
I don't know if it counts, but I went into a gas station and grabbed water, not like a bottled water, but like a fountain water, and I drank some water, and I was like, I guess I stole free water, but I don't know if it was free. Like it was a bad day. So I'm reporting myself for 75 cents if it's needed.
That's if they charge for the cup.
Yeah. But
Yeah, for emergency water.
Well,
Yeah.
so you said something, Tyler. You talked about the moments, right? And you talked about the moments and not going back. Like the idea of, man, I'm glad I'm not there anymore. And I think what we have to remember, though, it's those moments that shape us into who we are today, and it's moments like that that will shape us into who we are tomorrow. And if I even told you, and we'll get into this one day, but the testimony of the relationship with my wife since 2003 when we were young bucks and I robbed the cradle, she was 2 years younger than me, there was a lot of those moments. But I will tell you, if you ask her, and as much as it hurts, if you ask me, both sides, there's hurt on both sides, would we change any of those moments? No, because if it wasn't for those moments, we wouldn't be where we're at today. And if it wasn't for those moments, I don't think we would have ever made it, because you gain strength through opportunity, through weakness, right? And even biblically, right? When we fall flat on our face, who picks us up?
yeah.
So sometimes we have to fall on our face and we have to get our pink mohawk on and we have to have our manic episode and we have to have our just bad days, it happens every day.
It's life.
It's life, and it's terrible, but it's true. I mean, I think, man, I went from being, angry at the kids earlier to on the way home telling bad dad jokes and the kids making up bad dad jokes and we're just laughing, and then you realize what you got.
Mhm.
You're gonna have bad days. You're gonna have moments. But I think you just have to keep working through them, and you have to know that this is not a flat line we live in life. And I think if you have faith, especially, you understand this concept that the ebb and flows will happen, but it's not on a flat course. It's on an uphill being positive course, right?
Mhm.
So we're moving toward the end goal uphill. The ebb and flows we're still going to hit rock bottom.
I was going to say, I've rolled down that hill a couple
Yeah,
times.
but guess what? That hill, you never really rolled down it. You just rolled into a crevice.
Yeah.
And then God pulled you out of that crevice.
Yeah.
And I think remembering that and understanding there's value in that. It's
Yeah.
okay. I think, I look at my dad's testimony and the testimony through his death, the redemption, and those are valleys. Those are moments. There's some bad, dark moments there, like real bad. And we'll get into them one day, but I wouldn't change them. And that's hard. That's hard to rationally say, but I think that's why faith is so important. Is through faith, we can look at things irrationally that are irrational to most with rational thinking based upon a greater hope and a greater good.
Mhm.
And I think we have to.
Yeah. I've had so much that has happened, like with my mania has allowed me to understand people that a people group that I would have never thought that I would have been associated with or anything like that. it has let me relate, but it's also given me a burden and a heart for those that are hurting in a way that like I never thought I would relate to, like veterans or something like that, because I've also struggled with SI before in the past, and it's like wow, like that's something that they struggle with too.
So Tyler,
And
just this is going to be the weird interruption, but SI, just so there's people that may not know what that means.
yeah, so suicidal ideation. And it is the worst, and I'm not even on the veteran level. Like, I would feel like the military has its own baggage that is way stronger than what I've gone through, but I've still gone through my own hurdles of like not wanting to be alive, and just it like compounds. Like when the poop hits the fan, it just spreads everywhere, and you're kind of, I mean, it is a disease of the mind, and it gets in places that it's like your family, your friends, and you have to hold on to the little things in life. Like you have to hold, so in an encouraging way, you have to hold on to your friends, you have to hold on to your family, you have to hold on to your faith. You have to realize that you are worth it.
Mhm.
Like, and it is so, Satan wants you to be defeated permanently,
right.
and to be taken away from what God has I mean, God has given us, let's say, 100 years on this earth. And that is that's quite something, because that's not the average, I'm sure.
No.
But it's just like we have a home in heaven as well, for everybody. What you want to say something? I know.
Well, no, I think what you're trying. Satan's trying to delete us from God's plan, right?
Yeah.
That's the goal. And is the battle us, or is the battle? What's the Bible say? Where the battle is in what realm?
I mean, it's
The spiritual realm.
principalities, powers.
It's the battles. It's beyond us. And what I want to encourage you with, Tyler, or share with everybody is, none of us have been to war.
Not in this room.
But we've all fought our own battles, and the battle ultimately is spiritual. It's also God's got the battle, but that's incomprehensible, right, for some, and it's even deep.
Mm-hmm.
But we've all got the battles we're fighting. But just as the soldier who goes to war and has the picture of his sweetheart, and has the cross, and has the Bible with him, and has maybe that handkerchief that was Grandpa's.
Mm-hmm.
Those are the things that keep him going. Just like you said, Tyler, your friends, your spouse, your kids, Scott.
Mm-hmm.
It could be your job. It could be the hope, the faith. We've all got those things to hang on to in battle that will keep us going. We just have to choose to see them. And
it's not all, like, the word I would use is like worldly. Like, it's not all that it's right here in front of you tangible, but it's that you are a difference maker, and there is, if Satan is wanting you, like, if you've ever even contemplated it, I'll tell you, it's the worst place to be, because you're in a terrible situation. But it's almost like, if you can make it through it, it is a badge of honor that it's like, hey, I've lived through Satan's worst. And
absolutely.
So it is, it's something that we can talk about more in depth. It's it's getting close to time,
Yeah.
but I feel like there's a hotline. I don't know the number to the hotline, but suicide hotline. If you ever feel like there's something that is bothering you, get it out. Go to a therapist. Go to a counselor. Don't just bottle it up. And don't, in my opinion, don't take a bottle to it with alcohol or
Mhm.
drugs or
Agreed.
whatever. Try to get it out through a preacher or it's a fight. I mean, it is an everyday struggle for some people, and it was for me for a very long time. Comes back time to time, but it is something that that God is. That is one thing, is that if as a believer, God has got the battle, and you don't have to do it alone. And there's people out there, if you're not a believer as well, you don't have to do it alone either.
There's so many topics I think you can go into there, and I love it, and I love the idea. People need to get help. People need to seek help when they're in those moments. We also know that there's a lot of system brokenness, a lot of gaps, and once again, for another day, but I think reality is a big thing. Scott, what do you have? I think as we probably close out here, what are your thoughts to close us here?
On suicide?
Well, no, just in general. Like, I mean, so I'll share one of mine. I'll start. We'll go around this way. I think the idea of this podcast is right. We want to impact people, so we want this thing to grow. We want this to be successful, but we want to also hear what do people want to hear. So whoever hears this, right, give us feedback, ask us questions, but we really want to make a difference, and I think that it's a personal mission of all of us. I'll say that. I don't know. I think you guys maybe would agree with that, but it's a mission to make a difference.
I feel like I just consider this podcast that, and just three dudes just hanging out on a weeknight for an hour or so and just talking like we would talk any other time if we were in a small group, if we were out to dinner somewhere, or just watching football game or whatever, just talking. But don't get too deep into families, and don't because you still, and it's always the cliche to talk about, but the wives or whatever be like, you just hung out with that guy for 3 hours and you don't even know anything about him. You don't know his wife's name. You don't know his kid's name. Like,
that's the beauty of fellowship with believers, though, that I feel like we have Christ as our middle ground, and it doesn't require.
It's what we have in common.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And so it like and we are podcasting, so it's like we're not going to go into so intimate of details, because we have to protect our families and friends and stuff like that, because unfortunately there are people out there that will take a podcast and misconstrue it to their own beliefs and try to portray a situation in a light that is not congruent, as I'm using all these big words.
I'm proud of you
just
for
like-
that. I like it.
Well, that is just like us talking, and like you being like with the stuff with the Iraq war and everything, like we can disagree on that sort of thing.
Yeah.
And who cares? It's not.
I
It's not
love
important.
what you said, though, Scott. Three dudes talking, and we're getting to know each other. These are three totally different dudes. I will say that, but these are three totally similar dudes.
Yeah.
And I don't know how we're quirky, we're funny. I think from the first minute we talked, truly intentionally talked and had conversation, it was evident that we're gonna get along. It's gonna work well. So I'm excited just for the idea of getting to know you guys. And
I think with us too is it's just other people from church too, where, if it's nice to have friends that, you have common ground with Christ, but also, I work in real estate, you work in healthcare, and you work with technology. So if I ever have a question with technology, I'll reach out to you. If I need information about something growing on my back, I'll call you. Or, if you have any real estate questions or need a notary, reach out to me, and stuff like that.
Well, but and that's true. I think that's awesome, and I think there's so many blessings that are going to come out of this, for so many people. But I think for us, and I think that at the end of the day, if we positively feed each other through this venue, through this endeavor, that's a huge win.
Just us getting together and talking, even if there's no one listening outside of our significant others, I feel like it's still good to get together and talk for an hour or so. And as we go and get going, we'll just get more comfortable with podcasting and talking to each other and getting to know each other. But until then, please bear with us.